James Twin for the untouchable true school sports. Let's go, baby. Bow!
Be careful what you wish for because it can become a reality.
Yeah. The untouchable True School Sports Empire proudly presents something the boxing games are missing. Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT. I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. All right, so we got to go ahead and talk about one of boxing's true champions because listen, man, you guys, and when I say you guys, I'm not talking to everybody. So if the shoe fits, wear it. But many of you out there threw Subriel Matias under the bus when he lost to Liam Paro. And guess what? He did what a true champion does in boxing and in life. He came back. He won a couple fights. Got himself in position to fight for the world title against a legitimate, real, undefeated world champion and Alberto Puello. And what did he do? He won. He's champion again. And the new WBC super lightweight champion, once again, Subriel Matias. Let's talk about it because this was a great fight. I want to give credit to Alberto Puello, you know, probably one of the more underrated fighters in our sport right now. A guy that constantly steps up to the plate. And a lot of big names don't want to fight him. If you remember, Josh Taylor, one of my favorite fighters, dropped the belt to not fight him. You know, Devin Haney was at 140 for a while. He didn't want to fight Alberto Puello. You know, a lot of guys don't run to this guy because he's very skillful southpaw boxer. He has good frame, good size for the weight class. And even though he only has 10 knockouts, he's a respectable. He's got respectable pop. You know, not a big knockout ratio, but he's got respectable enough pop to where you can't just run up on him, right? So you look at his last couple of fights coming into this fight. He's fought Gary Anton Russell, who he won the belt from in a close fight. And then Sandor Martin, who he also beat, who was also one of the top guys at 140. Now, those fights are both close split decision wins. They both could have easily been losses. But either way, you look at Russell, you look at Martin, you look at Matias. These are real guys, real top fighters at 140. And Puello keeps stepping up to the plate. So respect to him. But it was a real interesting fight because you had the contrast of the styles was you had Alberto Puello, a fighter that wants to box, wants to move, has a pretty sharp left hand down the middle and a deceptively sneaky uppercut that can, you know, get your respect and keep you at bay. You had that side of the equation, and on the other side, you had the bulldozer, the non-stop motor, the non-stop volume punching, aggressive, vicious style of Subriel Matias, who always seems to have a very high punch output. Now, Subriel Matias, I thought early in the fight, he did a really good job of setting the pace. Puello, had a bit of a hard time early getting through those rounds because, you know, when you're dealing with the punch output of Matias early, it's hard to deal with that. But then I felt like in the middle rounds, he really did his thing. He really started to settle in and find the holes in the Matias defense. Then Matias kind of wore him out a little bit towards the latter part of the middle rounds. Then in the later rounds, Puello caught a second wind. And he might have got some of those rounds on the stretch. So it was what the fight said it was on paper. It was a very close fight. If Puello would have got the nod, I would have had zero problem with it because, I thought he actually, believe it or not, I thought he probably had a better close to this fight than he did against Sandor Martin. In my opinion, he probably had a bigger case to win this fight than even Sandor Martin fight. But he got the nod in the Sandor Martin fight and didn't get the nod in the Subriel Matias fight. So that just shows you the nature of high-level boxing where you just don't know what's going to happen when you leave it in the judges' hands. That's why you always want to try as much as possible to take it out of the judges' hands because that's the only foolproof way you know you're okay. But clearly the judges favored the volume punching, the punch output of Subriel Matias. And, generally speaking, what goes against the boxer in a close fight is that even if the aggressive fighter isn't hitting you and hurting you, because you're moving, maybe excessively moving in the case of Puello, you are giving off the impression that the pressure fighter, his pressure is effective enough to make you have to move more than you should. And so I think that might have lost him enough rounds, that did lose him enough rounds to lose this fight and lose the belt. But look, Puello I think is still going to be in the mix for good fights at 140. His stock doesn't go down. He's shown time and time again the quality of fighter he is. I'm sure he'll be back. But Matias gets the belt, and I gotta talk my shit, man, because Matias is one of my favorite. Hold on, I gotta get up, man. I'm gonna pace back and forth because, you know, like I said in my last video, you know, I got a little anxiety, so I'm gonna start pacing back and forth just to deal with it. Listen, man, Subriel Matias, he's a fighter that really and truthfully, like, this guy got his name dragged through the mud of a lot of people in the boxing world, from the fans to the media. You guys try to tell me that Subriel Matias wasn't a top fighter. And not only did he prove himself to be a top fighter again by fighting another, I believe it's the 7th undefeated fighter of his career, but a legitimate champion, a guy that a lot of fighters don't rush to fight, a high-risk, low-reward guy in Puello. He beats him to become a champion again. So not only is he a true champion, not only is he a guy that deserves his respect, but Subriel Matias is a fighter that, in my humble opinion, when you look at the other champions at 140, when you look at Richardson Hitchens, when you look at Gary Anton Russell, when you look at Teofimo Lopez, listen, respect to those guys. They're all phenomenal in their own right. But when it comes to the litmus test, you want to know where you really stand in the 140 division? This is the guy you fight right here. You really want to know what you're made of? You fight this guy right here in Subriel Matias, because win, lose, or draw, you know this dude's going to put them hands on you, because he's not going to put his hands in his pocket. He's not going to do the Hamza Shiraz versus Carlos Adames. He's not going to do the Jamel Charlo versus Canelo. He's going to let the leather fly, win, lose, or draw. So that to me, along with the fact that, you know, other than Liam Paro, who, by the way, Liam Paro, you know, it wasn't like he wowed the world. I thought Matias had a very terrible performance that night. So it took Matias having a very off performance for Liam Paro to do that. And Liam Paro just did what he needed to do. It wasn't like he had the sensation of a performance against Subriel Matias. He came with the right on enough game plan, and he beat him. But he is the litmus test, and he's gonna fight. Now look, this is where I gotta push back a little bit on Turki Al-Alshi, because I gotta speak out against Turki when he get on this bullshit. I'm not mad that Matias is getting a fight against Dalton Smith. Dalton Smith's a good fighter. I like Dalton Smith. I'm not gonna down him. He's definitely one of the better fighters at 140, and Matias is WBC mandatory. So I'm not against fighters fighting their mandatories. You guys know that I love mandatories getting their shot. I'm like the main person in boxing media who sticks up for the mandatories. But what I will say is that I would have liked to see Subriel Matias fight Richardson Hitchens. I feel like, Hitchens didn't get the Devin Haney fight. Hitchens ducked and avoided Subriel Matias when Matias was the IBF champion and he was the IBF mandatory challenger. He waited for Matias to lose to Paro, then he fought Paro. So I feel like, he was on some sucker type stuff there, some sucker shit. Just to put it bluntly, he was doing some real sucker shit when it came to Subriel Matias. And I feel like if there was ever a fight that should be made at 140 right now, it should be Subriel Matias versus Hitchens. Hitchens got to face the music. You can't run from Matias forever. If you really that guy, if you're really one of them top fighters in boxing, you got to fight Subriel Matias. He's one of the champions. It's a fight that I believe would do good business in New York. He's got an exciting style. He's Puerto Rican. You got your people from Brooklyn that will come out. It's a great fight between a master boxer, a fantastic boxer, one of the best jabs in boxing with Hitchens. I give him his due. I salute him. Versus one of the best volume punchers in the sport. Let's see whose will can impose on the fight and do a unification fight. But, Turkey's just kind of nipping that in the butt. He wants to Dalton Smith. I'm not like crying about it. I would have liked to see Hitchens and Matias try to at least negotiate a unification fight. But I guess, sometimes maybe you need to just give these guys a fight day and keep them busy. So I'm not mad about Matias fighting again. I just think that, Hitchens Matias would have been a great fight to make, because Hitchens got to face the music at some point. And if he don't face the music while Matias have that belt, if Matias beat Dalton Smith, I'm still going to be pushing for that fight. I'm calling it a duck because it was a clear duck. Other than that, it's not like Teofimo is not going to fight Matias because he's not really interested in fighting anybody these days. And Gary, I think, is probably going to go fight Andy Hiroka or something like that, hopefully, so we'll see. But nonetheless, listen, guys, this is a true champion right here. You guys want to talk about, a lot of people. I mean, I talked to so many people whose boxing opinions I respect, and they've always downed Matias. And what has Matias done his whole career? All these dudes that have real top fighters, high risk guys, he's been the one fighting them, doing the heavy lifting all these years. You gotta remember, Matias. I mean, Puello was the 7th undefeated guy Matias fought. Let me run y'all the list of undefeated fighters Matias has defeated in his career. So we'll start with this. Maxim Dadashev, R.I.P., beat him. Malik Hawkins, once highly touted prospect, beat the brakes off him. Jukumbayev, probably one of the toughest guys he ever fought, in the Crawford camp, probably quietly one of the best fighters in the 140 division today. Just really can't get that fight. He hasn't lost since that fight. He's on like right now. He's on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's on a 6-fight winning streak since he lost to Matias. So Jukumbayev. Apart from Jukumbayev, you also got Jeremias Ponce. He was a guy beating up a lot of people. Ergashev, I mean, that was supposed to be one of the most violent fights in boxing. You guys remember I talked that fight up. It wasn't that competitive of a fight. Matias beat the shit out of Ergashev. And then he lost to Paro, and then he beat Puello. So this is a guy who maybe he hasn't gotten those big names, but it ain't because of him. It's because the big names don't want to fight him because they know what kind of test this is. And I'm glad he won. It's great for boxing. It's definitely great for the Puerto Rican boxing. He, to me, has been probably the last 4 years been carrying Puerto Rican boxing. So shout out to Subriel Matias, a fighter that never cheats the boxing fans, is never a waste of our time, is never a waste of our energy, who's an absolute pleasure to watch and a testament to the sport of boxing, boxing in Puerto Rico, and just boxing overall. How could you say you love boxing and not love a guy like Subriel Matias, a guy that always gives it his best, a guy that always comes to fight, a guy that never cheats the fans, a guy that's always willing, ready, and able to fight anybody, anywhere, any place, anytime. That is him. Respect to him and respect to Alberto Puello for stepping up to the plate. And the new 2-time world champion, Subriel Matias, back with the belt again. 140 fighters, Dalton Smith, good fight. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to seeing if Dalton Smith can put himself on the map, because Dalton Smith, you know, he's beating guys like Jose Cepeda. You know, he was in the running to fight a guy like Adam Azim. Couldn't really get that fight, but you know, this is a great opportunity for him. He's stepping up to that world level. You know, as a solid puncher himself, taking on a good volume puncher. Good style matchup. We'll see what happens. But leave your comments down below. What do you guys think of the fight? Do any of you guys think Puello got screwed? Was it a robbery, or do the wrong guy got the nod? How do you feel about Matias being champion again? How do you feel about Matias versus Dalton Smith? All that. Leave your comments down below. Make sure you guys take the time to subscribe. And like I say in every single one of these videos, you can love me or you can hate me, but I'm just a kid from Daniel. So until next time, take care. Thank you for watching another video on the untouchable True School Sports Empire. For more great boxing content just like this, make sure you guys stay tuned and subscribe. You won't be disappointed.